beach volleyball hierarchies. What is it? And more importantly, what does it have to do with your development towards becoming a good player? What's up, I'm Alex and welcome back to the Learn Beach Volleyball Fast YouTube channel. This is not going to be one of these short and flashy videos. It's going to be one of these long and nerdy ones that I know some people like and some others don't. Anyway, I am going to give you a short version where I just sort of sum up the video at first, and then you can sort of think about if you want to listen to the rest or not. I'm going to dive deeper in so many directions from the actual message of this video. And I wouldn't make this video if I didn't believe that it was worth your time. This is one of these career type of thinking type of videos, which I don't know how long it's gonna be, but let's say even if it was an hour long, it can save you hundreds of hours in the future of frustration. I've done other videos like this before, so some of you guys watching this know what I mean, some of you don't. My tip is to grab the chance and see what happens. And one tip for watching this video is to just have it playing in the background, because it's just going to be me talking like this. I'm probably gonna turn this into a podcast episode later, so yeah, just have it playing in the background. Go do some cooking, whatever, stretching, whatever you might be doing, and yeah. So let's get started. First, the short version. The short version is, don't start bitching and being drama when or if you get uninvited to playing or practicing with some players. Usually it's players that are better than you, that are not gonna answer to some message, or they're gonna flat out tell you that you can't join. Whatever it might be, it might feel very bad for you. It might feel unfair. It might feel all sorts of things. The tip about that this video is about is to not start bitching about it, because here's the thing: these players that you would bitch towards, you need them for your future advancement in your career, most probably. And if you start bitching about things, you just become a person that just creates a lot of drama, and that further increases the chances that they will not invite you in the future. And because we need to play against better people every now and then just to experience what beach volleyball feels and looks like and is like on the next level, we need these people for this experience. So if we become enemies with these people and make sure that we're not going to get invited, then we're basically blocking our possibilities in certain sense to move forward up the ladder and become a better player. Okay, that was the short version. If you feel like you're done now, you can go do something else. Don't bitch to me. Anyway, no, the rest of the video I am going to expand on this a lot. I'm gonna talk about sort of why this is the case, why I give this tip to you guys, all sorts of underlying reasons, and also a lot of solutions on how to make this easier, better, how to sort of sneak your way around things and whatnot. So stay for the rest of the video is my tip. Okay, so what's gonna happen is I'm gonna explain basically three concepts as first, like separately. And once we have discussed all of these three concepts, then we'll start looking at sort of how they combine and how they ultimately lead to a lot of insights for how we should approach our beach volleyball career and the sport in itself. So the first concept is competitive volleyball versus social volleyball. So I'm gonna say that there's two distinctly different ways that people play and enjoy beach volleyball. And basically it comes down to that there's two different sources of fun in playing beach volleyball, and one of these groups basically bets on one type of fun, and the other group bets on trying to get the other type of fun. And these two different ways of having fun don't necessarily always mix together. So what does that mean? I mean that you can, in your life, you can have fun by, for example, watching funny videos on YouTube. But you can also have fun by, for example, going out and playing sports. and you can't really do this necessarily at the same time. And it's a similar effect, but within volleyball. So anyway, let's start with social volleyball, because I think that's more or less what most people start with in the beginning. Social volleyball is what it sounds like. You are having fun with your friends. It's very friendly, and the fun sort of comes from just hanging out with people and moving and playing around and trying different things and showing off and laughing together and all these sorts of things, and just getting to know each other. We're social animals and we like to socialize. That's basically what it is. And volleyball is quite good for that. Beach volleyball, you're out on the beach, it's sunny, nice weather. I don't know, maybe you have some beers. Who knows what happens? But it's a good social activity. There's no doubt about that. Then the other way to have fun in volleyball is the competitive volleyball. And competitive volleyball becomes fun in a different way because it's about mastery and challenge. So we as humans also enjoy working towards something, and we can enjoy competing. We can enjoy being challenged and getting challenges and having to work around these challenges. And then we get a feeling of mastery when we figure out how to overcome this challenge. What can also happen in this competitive volleyball is that sometimes it can almost feel like entering like an alter ego state for people. Actually, this is sort of something that some sports psychologists teach. Basically, if you and me, we're friends, we can be, in real life, we can be very good friends and very friendly to each other. But we can enter this competitive alter ego state where basically we temporarily make each other enemies and we fight or compete. We really try to destroy each other with all of our hearts. But we understand that this is not real life. This is the game. And we get into this competitive state and we just try to destroy each other. But it's actually very enjoyable because we provide each other challenge. And then we have to overcome this challenge. And this is where we get our fun from. Some years ago, I did make a video about competitiveness and if it's evil or something like that. And it talks about a little bit about the same topic. If you want, you can go and check that out, where I actually expand a little bit more on this topic. So one detail about this competitive versus social volleyball is, does it matter which level you play for these types of things? And the answer is not really, because you can be competitive at a lower level just as well as you can be competitive at an intermediate and higher and top of the world level. There's no difference. As long as competition, usually competition has to be sort of equal for it to be fun. But as long as that's happening, you can be competitive. And also, social volleyball is also, maybe it happens more at lower levels, sure. But there's social volleyball also at higher levels. There's my beach volleyball club where I started playing. They used to have these after work Fridays, which was basically a social volleyball night. So it was just like everyone came, no matter what level, and we just sort of played together and got to know each other, because the club was normally quite segregated between levels and not a lot of mixing was happening. But here it was just like we were playing King of the Court or Paradise or whatever you want to call that, and just mixing partners. Everyone was playing with everyone, and it ended up being a very fun night. And there's advantages both for better players and for worse players with these sorts of nights, because for the better players, maybe this can be sort of a pause from the grind in a sense, because maybe they have huge goals, maybe they're working very deliberately towards these goals, they're just pushing, and sometimes it's good to just have a little break and like still play volleyball, but don't be so serious. Just allow yourself to have some fun in a sense and just joke around a little bit, try some new stuff and not be so serious about it. I think that's a good thing to do every now and then, to have a break in this grind, and it can give you new ideas. It can have all sorts of good benefits. And also for the worse players, it can lead into you can get to know players at the higher level better, which has a lot of advantages. But you can also get to experience playing with better players, which is sort of rare. Maybe for some not so good player, it might be the first time they're playing with someone who can set really well, and they're like, "Oh, this is crazy! It's so much easier to attack now that the sets actually go where it looks like they're gonna go every single time, rather than maybe the players they're used to playing with. The sets go sort of all over the court." So there's all sorts of advantages for both levels in social volleyball, and I would highly recommend doing it every now and then for everyone. Okay, so that was concept 1 out of the 3, and the second one is that volleyball and beach volleyball is an interdependent sport. And what does that mean? So it basically means that all of the players on the court are dependent on each other. Because if there is one player that is significantly lower level than the others, then actually, because the actions of the others are based partly on the quality of the action of this player's actions, one person can draw everyone down. It's almost like the weakest link of a chain. If there's one weak link, the whole chain breaks down, type of thing. So we know in beach volleyball, for example, if we have a partner that is completely different level than you, then that's gonna make you, in a sense, a worse player, or your team is not gonna get to the level where that you could play if you had a different partner. But beach volleyball is also interdependent on the opponent's level, because if the opponents don't provide you the challenge that you need to have something to work on, in a sense, if you don't get challenged, then it becomes difficult for you to get into this fun from the competitiveness, the having to figure things out, because it's just too easy. We all get, there's always if things are too easy, you get bored. If they're too difficult, you get overwhelmed. So it's like in between there somewhere. The sweet spot is what we're searching for, usually when we do activities in life. And not all sports are like that. The best example maybe that I have is golf. I haven't played golf myself, but I've played disc golf or frisbee golf, which is sort of similar. But what happens in disc golf is that different levels of players can play together and walk on the course together, because everyone is playing their separate game. If you throw badly, I don't get hurt by that, because I can still play my round, and my round is based on my previous throws. So it's actually much easier in a sport like this to hang out with people from different levels, because it's not interdependent in the same way. Maybe it is a little bit, probably some pro players, they enjoy playing with other pro players, because then they can share ideas at sort of a higher level than maybe lower level players can do. But in a sense, the best player in the world could play with a beginner, and they would both have a good time. But in volleyball, the best player and the beginner is usually not a very good combination. Neither of them is going to have too much fun. One is going to be overwhelmed and one is going to be bored. All right, and so the third concept, which sort of stems from these two earlier concepts, is Volvo hierarchies. I've given it a name myself. I don't know, some people have sort of talked about this before, but anyway, now I'll name it Volvo hierarchies. And this is basically the fact that because of all of this, mainly the competitiveness compared with the interdependence, leads to the fact that similar level players usually ask similar level players about games. And then it creates sort of hierarchy. So there's like the highest level, Usually it starts from the top. The highest level people look for the other highest level people and ask them if they want to play. And then at some point they're full, they don't have space for more players, and then whoever's like below that, I guess they start looking and they start asking whoever's around that's the similar level. Then that becomes a group, then all the way until beginners, basically. And this is just basically the nature of how volleyball works. It doesn't always work like this. There are some tips and tricks sort of how to sneak from levels to other levels, and that's something we're gonna talk about more later. But I've thought a lot about this, and as long as volleyball is competitive, then this is how it ends up, just because of the interdependence. There's nothing rude, nothing unfair, nothing planned. It's just simply the nature of how volleyball is. So in social beach volleyball, it might be rude to tell someone that, hey, you can't play with us, because social volleyball is about being nice to people and whatnot, and that's just not something that you do in a social setting. However, it kind of changes in competitive volleyball hierarchies, because actually if you start bitching about not being invited, or let's say you invite someone to be nice to them, basically what you're doing when you're doing this is that you're disrespecting the nature of competitive volleyball, which is interdependent, and you're sort of watering down and turning the competitive volleyball into a more social volleyball. And again, the sources of having fun in social and competitive volleyball are different. So you're actually destroying the sort of gold that you can find in competitive volleyball. You're taking away from that and giving way for social volleyball, which is a different thing if you start accepting people that shouldn't be accepted. So I will go as far as saying that it's rude and disrespectful for the sport to start bitching about this nature of the sport and starting to bitch towards people that do separate these levels into levels, and also disrespectful for the sport and the competitiveness of it to accept people that shouldn't be playing with you to play with you. And I know this is kind of a weird stance to take, and a lot of people don't have experience about these interdependent sports, and they're stuck in this worldview that things should be fair, etc., etc. So they just they have trouble wrapping their minds around this, and so then they start creating drama when something that they think is unfair starts happening. But the thing is, this is just the nature of the sport. And also the thing is that there will always be a continuum of these hierarchies all the way from beginner to basically the top of the world. And quite fast you will get past the beginner stage. And that means that basically for the rest of your life, unless you become the top of the world, you will find yourself somewhere in this continuum between beginner and the best in the world. So you will always have people below you and people above you. So you will always sometimes get someone will tell you no, and sometimes you will say no to someone else. Always. And I believe that what I just explained is a concept that people that play volleyball at a higher level much more often understand than people that play at lower levels or beginners, which is also why I want to tell you this, so that you can sort of get up there faster in a sense. So what happens when you start bitching is that for the higher level players, most probably that told you no, you can't play with us, two things are happening. One is you are showing them by your actions that you don't understand this volleyball hierarchies concept that I'm teaching you today. You're showing them that you have no idea how this sport works and the nature of the sport by starting to bitch about these things. Also, you become drama. And so you're creating trouble for these people, your drama, and you're proving that you don't know how the sport works. So these two things will just further the chances that you will not get invited into the group now or in the future. And the thing is, as I said in the short version of this video already in the beginning, is that if you become trouble, you become drama for these people at the higher level, well, you're basically destroying your chances for yourself, because one aspect of becoming a better beach volleyball player is to every now and then get to compete against players that are at higher level than you, so that you sort of get to experience what the future is like. It's just good to be able to sometimes be in the future, so that you feel like, oh, okay, to play at this level, actually my serve receive that has been good enough before, it's not now, because these guys are much better at serving than the players I usually play against. And then you get that information, and now you can do something about it. Now you can go back and maybe play with the level of players that you usually play with, but sort of keep that in the back of your mind that you need to get better at serve receive, and you can work and figure out ways to work on that. So it is a very important part of becoming a good player, which I believe that that's your goal, since you're here watching Learn Beach Volleyball Fast, to become a better player. So don't destroy this to yourself. Don't create drama. Don't unfriend yourself from the people that are higher level than you, because it's just not going to help you, and it's very probably going to hurt you. Okay, so what's the pro level of this? There's actually one more level of this. So human psychology, we are sometimes people are uncomfortable saying things that they know that some people get hurt by. And some higher level players know that some lower level players get hurt if they get told flat out that, no, you're not good enough, you can't play with us today. So what tends to happen sometimes is that you just don't get your message answered to. It gets seen or whatever, and then it's just ignored. And sometimes people will lie to you. They will say, oh no, we canceled today, sorry, let's see another day. All sorts of things can happen, and these things can be true. They can also be flat out lies, because people are just uncomfortable telling you the truth. If this happens, that you figure out that someone lied to you. So let's say they said, oh, volleyball is canceled. You go say, okay, sure, I'll just go for a walk instead. You go for a walk, you walk by the court, and they're there playing with someone else than you. This can happen. Pro level is to still not create drama. Pro level is to understand that this is a combination of the nature of the sport, which is hierarchical, and that combined with some people's non-comfortableness with telling unpleasant truths, and that just happens. And it's also actually just sort of a nature of the sport. It's a little bit of an unfortunate one, and it stems from people's bad communication skills maybe, but it also happens. And by not becoming drama, even if this happens, and just, okay, so let's say you walk onto the court and you see these guys playing that obviously lied to you. Still just act as if they're doing the right thing, because they are respecting the nature of the sport. They are respecting the hierarchy and the competitiveness of the sport, and they're just doing what they need to do today to enjoy their competitive volleyball. So, yeah, even if they lie to you, still don't create drama. Just be normal. Just be nice. I like that you guys are... I was going to say, I like that you guys are playing. You can give comments. Maybe it's better to not give any comments at all, because it can come off very ironical or sarcastic or whatever. I actually don't know exactly how to do that. Maybe I need to think about that a little bit more. But just don't create drama is the rule. Don't make trouble. Just understand that this is how it is, and act as if they are doing the right thing, because that's actually kind of what they're doing. And now when we're here, I'll take a little sidestep away from the topic today and just explain one more thing, because it's related to this. So basically, and this happens sometimes with volleyball clubs, unfortunately, and just different groups of volleyball players in different places. So if lower level players start bitching with the highest level players about this, what always will happen in the end is that these highest level players will talk amongst each other and move to a different place. There's just, as long as there is physical possibilities for them to do this, they will do this. It might take some time, they might be fine with the bitching for a while, but after a while they will get enough of it and they will move somewhere else. And the lower level players that bitched about it, they are now even worse off because now they have no access to these high level players. Before they had maybe a little bit access and they wanted more, but now they will have no access. They will be in a completely physically different place and no communication at all. And that's just a loss for everyone. This unfortunately happens in some volleyball clubs in the world. That's what happens. It's also sometimes what happens with coaches, because coaches might want to have things in a certain way, or they have ideas and whatnot, and then the club doesn't agree with that, or whatever, it might have some different ideas, and then the coach just says, okay, well, apparently you guys are better at this than me, so I will go somewhere else. And the club loses out on a very good coach. And that also happens a lot of places around the world. It happens. I've heard many stories about that happening. So that was a side story, because everyone is involved in some sort of volleyball community, some sort of club. And yeah, I think that the beach volleyball world in general would be better off if these separations happened less. And they could happen less if the lower level players didn't bitch to the good ones. Of course, if you disagree with anything that I say in this video, the comment section is yours. I'm very open for discussions, and I like it when people disagree with me, because I learn a lot from these disagreements, because sometimes I do miss things. Sometimes I haven't thought everything 100% through, and and when I haven't, then I want to learn. So I actually want you guys to point out where I'm wrong so that I can become better for the future. Okay, so if you have watched this video so far and understood that everything that I've talked about, you end up in a spot where you're a little bit stuck because you understand volleyball hierarchies, you understand the different levels, you understand that you need to put yourself in the level where you are and respect that, and respect people at a higher level that basically don't invite you. But at the same time, you also understand that it is advantages for you to interact with these higher level players and to get to play with them every now and then. So, the rest of the video, and one of the tips, or basically the main tip so far, which is don't start bitching with these higher level players, is number one tip to make that happen. Because if you're at least, okay, let's say you are the lower level player from this other group, every now and then someone of them is going to be sick or injured or can't play, and they need another player. And what they are going to do is that they're going to look at the level below and start calling around or messaging around. And if they see that you're a nice guy, you have some skills, you're just below them in level, you don't bitch about things, chances are that you're going to get this call one day. And once that happens once, well, now you get to experience playing at this higher level, which then you can go, after that one experience, you can go and, as I said before, practice on the things that you now realize that you need to get better at to play on this level. Maybe a few months later, you get another call, another time they remember, hey, this guy was nice, he could play kind of, and didn't bitch about things, and maybe he's better now. And then you get another call, and and then you get, over time, you get more and more calls and more experience at playing at this level. And one day you might be you have changed levels. Now you're in this group instead. And then the game continues. Then there's always a level above that also. And that's basically how it works. So that is the number one tip on how to jump from one level to another. But we're of course also going to talk about more sneaky tips and tricks and hacks on how to jump from one level to another. Okay, so the first tip is logistical advantages. What I mean with this is that sometimes you can sneak into levels where you don't belong by having access to things needed for playing volleyball. For example, if you have a portable net, or if you have balls, sometimes having a vehicle helps. For example, if people need to go playing somewhere and they can't get there, and basically they have to invite you to be able to go there, or the permanent nets are down and they need to play with a portable one and you're the only one that has one, or something like that. Sometimes it can be an advantage to have these things. Another similar advantage is times of the day when you can play. So it can happen that, for example, this higher level group can only play at daytime, and that usually kind of makes the group of available people much smaller. So if you are one of those people, maybe you're even 2 levels below them, but you know, the day that one of them is injured and they need a new player, well, the level of players just right below them, no one can play, and you're 2 low levels below, but you can play, so then you get invited. So these are financial things, like you can go and buy a lot of stuff, and you can you can have a flexible job and all of that sort of stuff. It's logistical things that usually comes down to money, but they are also hacks that can make this happen faster for you. Second tip is to get to know these higher level players better personally, because the fact is that if you have the choice of, you have to invite someone lower level into your games, the chances are that you're gonna pick someone that you know and like, and that's just human psychology again. So there's several different ways of doing this. I'm gonna give you some examples. One of mine was actually, and something that I'm gonna make another video about this, but the first skill that I learned at what I would maybe call a higher level is setting, and specifically hand setting, because I realized that if I was able to go and do hitting practice, if I can set just as good as the high level players before I'm a high level player myself, then I might be able to, from time to time, get one of these high level players to just go and do one-on-one hitting practice with me. Because the thing that they need from me, the interdependence for a hitting practice, is just setting quality. So it actually doesn't matter if I shank, serve, receive, it doesn't matter if I can't hit myself, as long as I can set them so that they can hit and get the value out of their practice. Well, then they can set me, and I can now learn to hit better because probably their set quality is quite high, and I also get to know these people better. Kind of a similar-ish thing is the story of Ryan Doherty, an American professional player. He's written a book that I read, and so he's very tall. So his way in was basically, he said he got invited as a blocking dummy. So basically these high level players just needed to practice hitting against a block. And he didn't necessarily know how to block, but he was very tall. So he was a big block for them to practice against. So so apparently he started getting these invites to just be there, basically a practice tool. But once he showed up to this more and more times, well, after a while he got some reps here, he got some tips there, he got to learn some stuff himself, and over time he just became one of the group, and over time even more he became one of the players in this group at this level. That's another way. Then there's also the way of bonding about something else than volleyball with these higher level players. So for example, one guy I know, he is a physical therapist, and he bonded with another higher level player about just training and like vertical jump training and just optimizing your body in general for volleyball. So they would play volleyball at different levels, but they would go to the gym together and do that together. And after a while, that led to them creating a friendship, and after a while, that led to them also practicing volleyball together. So again, another win. And another similar thing is sometimes people play other sports. Maybe just ask around the people that are higher level than you what other sports they play. Maybe you played golf when you were a kid and you realized that the other guy that's higher level volleyball player than you also plays golf. Hey, cool. Let's go play golf together. Guess what? Golf is not even an interdependent sport. So even if you're different levels, it doesn't matter. And but it's fun to do different sports with the same people, because that can actually lead to also very interesting conversations where you can sort of discuss like volleyball concepts applied to golf and golf concepts applied to volleyball. That was a side note again. But those kinds of conversations can be really interesting. So just find out what people are interested about. And if you are a person with several interests, maybe you will create some better relationships and friendships through something else and then bring that back to volleyball. Third tip or idea is a little bit of a weird one. It's similar to the first one, but even further. It's to flat out buy your way forward. I haven't done this myself. I haven't really heard of people doing it. I have heard some stories, but you can, for example, one of the stories I've heard is a higher level player that was about to end his career, and someone with money asked him to play one more season with a good salary as a partner of his. And this guy that well, basically provided the money, he got to play one season at a much higher level in competition than he would normally do. Whether that's ethical or not, I'm not gonna say, but it's an idea that could maybe be good sometimes, or a win-win. I myself had an idea. This never happened. I did reach out to these people, but it never happened. So earlier, when I was lower level player than I'm now, I had this thought that I would want to play one time, like a king of the beach, like 4 players, everyone plays partners up in all different ways. So it's basically 3 sets or 3 games that you play. And I wanted to do this with 3 like high level players. And I wanted them to not be nice to me, to beat the shit out of me. So I basically wanted to just have this one-time experience of playing this high-level volleyball with different partners against different opponents, just so I would know what it would be like. So I actually reached out to these people and I was like, hey, can I just like, in a sense, it's like buying coaching, but not quite. Like you're just asking them to play with you and pay a little bit to all 3 of them. And yeah, it's coaching, but they get to play rather than coach you. And that's basically what it is. Unfortunately, this thing didn't happen. So I didn't learn anything from this experience. Maybe someone else out there can do that with inspiration from this video. If you do that, let me know how it goes. And the last tip that I have sort of done myself, I don't know if it's a good tip or not, so I'll include it in here, but I don't really know how people perceive when I do this. So I've traveled around quite a bit and gotten into new beach volleyball communities every now and then. And basically what I've tried to do is that when you get to a new place, you will probably not get to play with the right level of players for you. It will take some time to sort of break into this new community and work your way up. But I have reached out to high-level players in sort of a new community that I know don't know me. And I have just told them who I am and that I would really appreciate playing. And I include, this is the important part, I include in this message that I understand that volleyball is a hierarchical game and people don't want to invite people that are not as good. And I include that I will not be drama. I have full respect if they say no. but I would be very happy to come and try and play once if they would let me. And even if they afterwards say that no, I'm not good enough, I'm completely fine with that and will create no drama. So my hopes when doing this is that I will make them feel a little bit safer, because otherwise maybe they would say no, just because if I'm not good enough to play with these guys, then it's going to be uncomfortable for them to say that, hey Alex, you're not good enough, you can't play with us. That was fun once, but you can't play with us again. But if I already before, when I contact them, let them know that I understand that this might happen and I'm completely fine and will not create drama if it happens, I think that they should feel a little bit safer to let me try and see if I can play with them. But also, if someone tries that out and it works or it doesn't work, let me know also. I don't have super much experience with that one. Okay, now let's do something fun in the end of this video. Basically, I learned this from a mentor of mine, and he talked about how community has a certain type of power. So here's the thing. I want you to think about what you have learned from this video, what has been an aha moment, or what has been an example of something that you realize that you should change in your behavior in terms of how you relate to other volleyball players and communities, etc. And I want you to write this answer or these thoughts or whatever you're going to change in the comments below, because there's two things that happen when this happens. One is that there's a little bit of a bigger chance that you will actually make this happen, because you have taken the time to make it sort of official and possible for others to read about your commitment, etc., etc. There's a certain type of power in just putting things in writing, letting people know, letting people see, being open about it. Another thing is that if other people also do this, you can go in the comment section below and read their answers and get inspired by them. So then there's even more value in this, and maybe even more examples from this video than what I've been able to provide you here so far. So yeah, go below and write down what you feel most targeted, what has sort of, have I said something that kind of hit you on the nail, like, oh shit, I need to change that, or have there been any good insights, or what are some actual real actions that you're gonna take in your beach volleyball career from now on. So have fun. I hope this has been an enjoyable, insightful experience for you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, click the thumbs up. Join the Facebook group with other Learn Beach Volleyball Fast project followers, because there we can discuss these things even more, etc. Tell your friends, because well, it's good if they also know this Volvo Hierarchies and all the other stuff that I teach on this YouTube channel. And also, the more you share this with your friends, the faster this channel will grow, and the faster and better possibilities I will get to create even more and better videos for you guys. So if there's value in this, help me make this project grow, because we will all win out of that. Also, comments in the comment section helps with the YouTube algorithms. So really go in and write those comments, and if there's any other thoughts, any feedback, whatever, write those in the comments too, because then YouTube sees that this is an actual video that people care about, and that is good for all of us also. Cool, thank you. See you again in another one.